No, we haven't yet.
No, you're not late. You're right on time.
Clerk, call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Present.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by an old friend of mine, Senior Minister Ed Malone at the Hillside Memorial Christian Church. Reverend Malone, it's good to have you here. After the invocation, please remain standing for the pledges.
Let us pray. Eternal and loving God, we come into your presence on this day, honoring those who have served this nation in all of the conflicts and wars. We remember their heroism and we're thankful for their supreme devotion to this country. We pray for the men and women who serve our country around the world this day. Will you guard, guide, and protect them as they go about safeguarding this blessed country of ours? We ask your blessing upon our country, our state, this city, and our county. We pray that you will give this court your strength and wisdom to deal with the issues in these difficult times. And for your blessings, we give you the honor and the praise that is due you. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Enthusiasm, just love this.
Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have several announcements for the court this morning. We could go to the purchasing items. Item H1 under purchasing, this is the sale of recycled paper. There is a new court communication in your folder this morning as relates to that particular item. Also under purchasing, item H2, this is bid number 2008-195. We're going to ask that we hold that bid at this time. Then finally, under purchasing, item H8. This is bid number 2009-007. We're going to ask that we hold that for 1 week. Also, members of the court, there's a statutory requirement that we canvass the votes from the November 4th election within a certain time period, and we're scheduling that canvassing of the votes for this coming Monday, November 17th, at 10 o'clock in the morning. It shouldn't take very long. That will put us within the window that's necessary to canvass the vote. And then finally, members of the court, this is Veterans Day, and we have a very special recognition and introduction for you today, and I would ask that Steve Smith, our CIO, to come forward this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioners, it's with particular pride and great honor that I get to introduce my stepson, Staff Sergeant John Engel. He's with the 10th Special Forces Group out of Fort Carson, currently stationed at Baghdad. He's one of our 2 veterans in our family. His brother was unable to return for his funeral of his grandmother, but he's going to be watching us today. So we want to say hello to him, Garrett Engel, who's with the Air Force Security Forces in Baghdad currently. So thank you very much. Thank you. And John. My understanding, John, you have to go back tomorrow, and will be this tour goes through January. So we wish you the best of luck, and again, want to thank you very much for the service that you've given for our country. Thank you very much.
And you return with all of our prayer.
Yes. And Garrett, if you're watching, we appreciate the job and the work that you're doing there also. We have before you the minutes of our November 4th meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously. We have 3 proclamations today. The first is one regarding Tarrant County Adoption Day, which will be delivered on Saturday, so I'll move its approval at this point in time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have one.
Yes, proclamation, Texans Building Character Month. If you would read that into the record, please.
Whereas our communities, nation, and world are in critical times with the present and future well-being of our society requiring an involved, caring citizenry with good character, and whereas concerns about character training have taken on new urgency since children now more than ever need strong, constructive guidance from their families and their communities, including schools, youth organizations, religious institutions, and civic groups. And whereas in 2008, over 1,100 youth at 27 sites located throughout Tarrant County participated in the Texans Building Character Program series, in which they learned the importance of demonstrating good character in their daily lives. And whereas the Texas Building Character Program offers the opportunity for youth to grow in citizenship, leadership, and life skills especially valuable to them, the community, and Tarrant County, the state of Texas, and the nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim November 2008 as Texas Building Character Month in Tarrant County. In witness whereof, we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 11th day of November 2008.
I'll move for its approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And we have Terrence Hollins, 4-H Department of the Texas Agri-Life Extension Service, to accept the plaque. If you'll meet me at the podium. Good morning. Thank you for all the good work that y'all do, and any comments you'd like to make.
Now, I think she wanted a picture, and I think she just got a real good picture of your back. So why don't you get back up there and let's turn around and...
This opportunity.
While you got the good side a few minutes ago, now you can get the other side.
You make us look a lot better.
Thank you very much. We have a guest, Ms. Stephanie Johnson from Communities in School. This is a place where I've done some programming.
Well, hello. My name is Stephanie Johnson. I'm a licensed master social worker, and I work at for Communities in Schools, which is a nonprofit organization, and I'm a social worker in a school. One of the jobs that I have is to bring service providers into the school and to do groups. And Terrence Hollins has been working with me for 4 years now. I started up in Meacham Middle School in North Fort Worth, and now I'm down in Everman this year. And first thing I did as soon as I found out that I was moving down to Everman was call Terrence and said, will you come down and do groups with me? Because it's very essential to me to have him to come into my schools. He comes in and he does 2 groups a year, and they last 6 to 8 weeks. And he comes in and he does activities with them, and it teaches them about their character, and they can visualize it because he does these activities, and he does experiments like putting things in a soda bottle and watching it explode and learning that that's what happens inside of you if you don't get those things out. And the kids really respond, and I've had 5th graders through 8th graders, and very diverse, and it works with all of them, and he does such a great job. And this program it means a lot to me and to my kids, and it's been very successful in our school, and I hope that it continues to be able to expand. So that's all I have to say, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you for all of your work. We appreciate you.
Next, we have the presentation of our Employees Golf Tournament Awards. Mendez. JD, did you win this? Is this?
I didn't participate in it, but I did have representation. And
Just not very good representation?
well, he told me he's a fairly good golfer, but he had to hit the ball and drag GK. hit the ball.
I told you we should have filled that with something this morning.
I have no comment on that.
GK, if you would like to touch that, that's probably the
Closest you're going to ever come.
Actually, you know, we have one just like this in our office. We just put our name on it every year.
Well, Your Honor, I have no comment on that, but this was the 5th annual Employees Golf Tournament, a tournament that is sponsored and coordinated by employees for the employees of Tarrant County and retirees and the employees of the credit union, which is part of the county family. This year's tournament was held at Mansfield National Golf Course in Mansfield on October the 5th. It was a very nice day. We had a great turnout. Once again, over 100 golfers for the second time in our history. I want to thank the coordinating committee that put this together, made up of employees Doug Black, Paul Wood, Ray Reich, Craig Maxwell, Tricia Ward, Steve Sparks, and myself. And also a special thanks to the credit union who provided the trophy that we award every year to the championship team, as well as those employees that did donate some money to the cause, most notably Debbie Snyder and David Phillips. And there were also a lot of employees that donated prizes that were given away at the tournament. There were 2 flights in this year's tournament. The second flight was made up of a team of Zach Walters, Robert Norton, and Marshall Morgan. They were awarded a prize at the tournament. But today we wish to award to the championship team the Tarrant County Cup, which they will hold, and it's got their names engraved on it. They will hold for the next year until the next tournament. Those people will step up as I call their name. The first place team was made up of Peter Hinojosa, Fred Erickson, Doug Black, and Bill West, who's not with us today.
Fred, would you like to say anything?
Just let him touch it a little bit. Just let him. Somebody come up here and get a picture. That's as close as he's going to ever get to that.
Yeah. No, what I would like is to especially thank my team members, Doug Black, Peter Hinojosa, and Bill West. They worked very hard, and we worked as a team. And also, I like to, what Mark mentioned before, thanks for the committee. They worked hard. And to Greg and Mark and Paul, Doug Black, and Ray Rack and other members. They did great. And can't wait till next year. Thank you.
All right. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have one final item to bring to the Court this morning. This concerns the Court's 2008 holiday meeting schedule. We have included that in your court book and in the electronic court book. Basically, it deals with the end of December and the 1st of January meetings. We're recommending that we cancel the December 23rd meeting, that we hold a meeting on December 30th, and that would be just an abbreviated meeting, and then that we also cancel the January 6th meeting, which is the first meeting in January. This is in line with what we've done in the past. We're recommending approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Glenn. Quick.
Good morning. We have two items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits for the 213th District Court. The court is losing its court coordinator at the end of December. That individual is retiring with 400 vacation hours. The judge is asking for a waiver of terminal benefits to be effective 1/1/09 with a fiscal impact to the general fund of a little bit more than $5,700.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer? Good morning.
Good morning.
Public Health is seeking your approval of a professional services contract with Tabitha Powell, MPH, to provide influenza surveillance subject matter expertise to the Tarrant County Public Health Department.
I'll move approval, but I want to hear some more about that.
Oh, sure.
I'll second so we can hear that.
Okay, all right. This is to start working on the grant that you approved a couple of weeks ago from the Department of State Health Services. And Ms. Powell has worked with us before on this same effort. And the grant is allowing us to get more schools, school-based clinics, and daycare centers engaged in our flu surveillance program. So she'll be out working with these different entities and helping them to understand the surveillance system and what they need to do to get hooked into the system. And that way we'll be getting more and more information about seasonal flu and pandemic flu should we need that. Does that help?
So she'll be coordinating with JPS and their school-based clinics?
Yes.
And they will be reporting incidences of influenza?
Yes.
That they treat into a central database?
Yes. Which already exists. It's expanding it.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lou. Mr. Beecham. Had a rough weekend, didn't we?
We did. We did.
Mine was a little closer than yours, but
Some of us had really rough.
Some of y'all did.
go right ahead.
Good morning. We have 8 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-018, which is for the sale of recycled paper. Our recommendation would be toward the high bidder, Southwest Paper, the rate of $107 per ton.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our next item will be item number 3, is also a bid award recommendation for bid number 2008-204. This is a bid to fabricate and install wood replacement courtroom gates at the Family Law Center. Recommendation will be toward the Texas Millwork Incorporated, the amount of $22,250.
Move approval.
Second, for the sake of discussion.
We have a motion and a second.
What happened?
Yeah. what
Mr.
happened?
Phillips would love to tell you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
These are the gates on the spectator rail that separate the spectators and litigant areas. When the gates are pushed back over past a 90-degree angle, they bind up, and what's happening, when they're forced over there, the wood veneer is cracking, and the press board that holds the bottom spindle rod in has failed. The top one's good because it's in a solid wood, mahogany wood is in good shape. The bottom ones are failing, thus the door fails. We're going back with a new door with solid wood all the way around. And we'll do that in our civil courts building also.
Do we need to do something that prevents it from locking at the 90 degree?
It doesn't lock. It goes. When some folks, when they push it, they push it a little hard, and this will solve that problem, putting it in a more durable material.
So we're doing this in each one of the courtrooms? In the
Yes, sir. We're doing all 19 courtrooms, and we're buying it at one spare. And we've actually done a pilot test on a courtroom gate door we've had in place for about 8 months, and it's worked fine.
So we should get more than a 5-year life out of this particular set of gates.
3-year. These started actually failing a couple of years ago. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our next item, number 4, is also a bid award recommendation for bid number 2008-205. This is an annual contract for the purchase of tandem drum articulated vibratory rollers. Recommendation would be to award on a per unit price basis according to the primary and secondary vendors' bidding specifications as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next item, number 5, is another bid award recommendation for RFP number 2009-003. This is for heavy equipment insurance. Recommendation would be to award to Hub International. This was also recommended by the Risk Management Board.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next item, number 6, is another bid award recommendation for RFP number 2009-002. It's an RFP for psychological, psychiatrics, psychosexual evaluations, and polygraph services for CSCD. Recommendation would be to award to the specific vendors by category as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I noticed that this was another mandatory pre-bid.
We don't do those anymore. That's correct.
Okay.
This is the last of one. We might have one more left, as I'm told by my staff.
Okay.
Well, this is next to the last one.
Next one.
Any other questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 7 is another bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-006. It's an annual contract for the purchase of pneumatic compactors. Recommendation would be to award on a per unit price basis. The price list for optional items for the primary and secondary vendors is shown in your court communique.
And I believe that this is the last one.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our next item, number 9, is also a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-012. This is our annual contract for paper and plastic products. Our recommendation would be to award on a per unit price basis according to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item, number 10, is also a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-014. This is our annual contract for copier maintenance on the older modeled Minolta DI and EP models. Recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis, selecting as our primary vendor Accelerated Office Systems, and as our secondary vendor Konica Minolta Neville Business Machines.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is this the rebid of the item?
Yes, sir, it is. Okay. That's correct.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Ms. Lamb, Transportation.
Thank you. I have 3 items today. The first is to ask the Commissioners Court to consider a change in scope to the Longhorn Road project. It was included in the 2006 Transportation Bond Program. It's located in Precinct 4. The City of Saginaw originally submitted the project as an improvement from a 2-lane facility with a center turn lane to a 6-lane facility with a median. They still intend to bid the project as a 6-lane facility, but they're asking the court to consider allowing them the option to also have an alternate bid for a 4-lane facility. They're anticipating that with the cost of construction prices escalating, that there may not be enough money to cover the full 6 lanes. So they're asking for that option to bid it as a 4-lane. They'll still purchase the right-of-way for the 6-lane facility, build the 2 outside lanes each direction, and have a wide median, allowing them in the future to add the extra 2 lanes when traffic warrants. We do have today the mayor, Mayor Brinkley, city manager, and their consultant here to answer any questions.
I have reviewed this with them, and I've talked to Transportation, and we are doubling the size of the road, plus we're going to, or they are going to obtain 2 additional lanes to add the 6 lanes at a later time. So I concur in the recommendation.
That's a motion.
I'll make that
A second.
a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just that this is no different from the Rosedale project, and I wish y'all would get me off the hook so I can quit having to vote against all of these projects when they come up. But I will be voting against this one as well.
Well, I'm sorry, but I believe the Rosedale project is 4 lanes now, and at the end of the project, it was going to be 4 lanes. This one is a 2-lane now. It's going to increase to a 4-lane. It's going to double in size. So it's considerably different than the Rosedale project.
Not in my estimation, Ms. Commissioner Johnson. They both proposed to go to 6 lanes. We're not getting what was proposed. It's a reduction in scope.
It is a reduction in scope. I agree. Call the question.
Please vote. Motion passes 4-1.
The second item I have today is related to the first. It is a request that Commissioners Court approve a resolution and order authorizing conveyance of right-of-way easement containing .107 acres across the Precinct 4 maintenance facility at 601 Longhorn Road in the city of Saginaw. This project, this right-of-way is necessary for the project we just discussed, the widening of Longhorn Road.
Will not affect the operation of our maintenance. I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The third item and last item I have today is a request that Commissioners Court approve a resolution supporting the North Tarrant Express Comprehensive Development Agreement. Maribel Chavez, the district engineer with Fort Worth District, is here today to answer questions. The North Tarrant project includes IH-35W, IH-820, and Airport Freeway. It is one of the top priority projects for the North Central Texas region, and we've consistently supported increasing the capacity of this road. Maribel is here to do a short presentation and to answer your questions.
Good morning, Maribel.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I understand we have another meeting Thursday in Hazel?
Yes, sir. We'll talk later. Good morning, Commissioners, Judge.
Morning.
For the record, my name is Maribel Chavez, and I am the district engineer for the Fort Worth District of the Texas Department of Transportation. And I come before you today to provide you a brief summary of where we are with the project that we call the North Tarrant Express, and also to request action in the form of a resolution supporting this project, and also requesting or asking that you understand that the contract will have a non-compete clause, and I'm here to explain to you what that language actually says and what it does. Just a little bit of background. We have been looking at all of the corridors on the what we call the North Tarrant Express, essentially all of 35W from 30 on up to 170, and then 820 from the 35 interchange over to Northeast Mall, and then State Highway 183 from that Northeast Mall over to 161 over in essentially over in the Dallas County side, and also 820 down to down south of Northeast Mall. Just a little bit of history. We did back in a few years ago, after the legislature gave us authority for public-private partnerships, we did receive an unsolicited proposal. We looked at that proposal, eventually concluded that it wasn't what was best for us, particularly in Tarrant County, and we did cancel that procurement, and then essentially repackaged the project, went back out, and requested private sector interest in developing this entire project. We did receive proposals, and then the legislative session happened to us in 2007, and essentially
there was a lot of discussion about public-private partnerships, and there was a moratorium applied to public-private partnerships in the state of Texas, except for some projects. And this project, along with the project we call the Connector over in northeast Tarrant County, essentially are two of I believe there's three exempted projects from that moratorium. And so we continue to develop these projects and are scheduled to receive proposals. I'm not going to go through this detail, but essentially this slide provides you all of the information on the planned improvements for the various segments of this huge project. In particular, the 820 segment is what we will, on this segment, we will be asking for what we call a concession or hard bid. And the improvements on segment 1 or 820, we have broken up and provided some flexibility to the teams so that we can get various pricings on those elements and hopefully offer you and offer the region more opportunity for how to implement this project. But essentially the base bid will reconstruct our existing lanes, and we'll add 4 managed lanes, tolled managed lanes in the median, and we'll also reconstruct those 4 frontage road lanes, and they will be continuous frontage roads. Currently, they're not continuous frontage roads. We'll also then ask for additional capacity, additional lanes to be added. We'll also look at the 820 and 35W interchange, and also ask them to take a look at opportunities to go on past Northeast Mall on into what we call Airport Freeway. This is where we've been and where we are. Essentially, we had 7 teams initially submit proposals. We shortlisted to 4 teams, and currently we have 2 teams remaining. These teams will submit final proposals on November the 17th. We anticipate recommending a best value to our Transportation Commission either in December or January, and more likely that'll be in December. As a result of legislation, also these managed lane facilities will be operated by the Regional Tollway Authority, by the North Texas Tollway Authority. We hope to execute that comprehensive development agreement if, in fact, the Commission selects one of these proposers. We anticipate we'd be executing that contract in February or March of next year.
Excuse me, Maribel.
Yes, sir.
Does Txdot have a requirement for participation of historically underutilized businesses?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In these 2 remaining proposals, can you tell me what kind of participation they're proposing?
Well, actually, we will have to comply both with federal and state law for what we call DBEs and hubs. And it'll depend on the size of the contract. There's percentages that are assigned to our contracts. It will depend at the end of the day on what size that contract will be. But there will be goals and assigned to both the DBE and the hub program for all of this construction work.
Will they have to submit any information about how they intend to reach those goals?
Yes, sir. Actually, they do. They have to comply, again, both with federal and state law to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and the reason that I'm here today is state law does require that the department, before it enters into a comprehensive development agreement with any type of competing facility, language, or provisions, that it needs to have the Commissioner's Court pass a resolution indicating that it understands the CDA has this type of language, and that it still agrees that we should proceed and execute the CDA. And the only, again, in keeping with full disclosure, the only language that we have in there that pertains to non-compete, and it's very, very specific and very simple. We say that we will not compete with the proposer within the existing right-of-way, and only that we will not build another highway within the existing right-of-way. And that is the non-compete language that we have in there.
So in effect, what it's saying is we're going to pass a resolution saying that we won't build a road over them or that we won't build a tunnel under them.
Exactly, sir. Because within the existing right-of-way, there is no room for another highway, but you could build, I guess, in some wild chance, you could build over or under. Again, the chances of building over them are actually slim to none. Number one, I can tell you we'd never get environmental clearance to build any kind of double-deck facility. And then on top of that, it would be cost prohibitive. And likewise with building under, it would be a tunnel, and that would be cost prohibitive as well. But that is the so-called non-compete clause that we have in the contract, is that we will not build within the existing footprint, within the existing right-of-way. So we need to tell you that. You need to know that. And hopefully we will still get your support to at least continue the process.
Maribel, we had a public hearing on this project in July.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any results of that public hearing as far as the public comment and the written comments that came in? Is that?
Yes, sir. We did get significant comment both at the hearing and then in writing, and we have to compile what we call a summary and analysis, and all of that is in keeping with the environmental clearance process, complying with federal and state law. So we essentially have to respond to all of that public comment and explain to all of those commenters what we propose to do and how we will mitigate any environmental action or impact that may occur. Essentially, I can tell you, Commissioner, that the overwhelming comment was in support of the project. That we, in fact, if anything, what we heard was build something and build it now. You guys have been talking about improving not just 820, but Airport Freeway and 35W for many years. You need to move forward, you need to do something, and you need to do it as soon as possible. Again, we have to address the comments that we got. We've submitted that to the Federal Highway Administration and are waiting for them to give us clearance, what we call a FONSI, a finding of no significant impact.
Okay.
I would move approval of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll talk to you later, Commissioner Johnson.
I'm ready.
Okay.
We've got proposed for Jacksboro Highway now.
Okay.
Commissioner Fickus, I believe you have an interlocal agreement on the agenda?
I do, with the City of Westlake. It's intersection improvements at Precinct and Sabine. I'd move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Any appointments? Okay, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have 3 items to bring to you this morning. The first item, item A, is a briefing by MHMR. It deals with MHMR Tarrant County update on the homeless veterans program. Dr. McDermott is here to address the Court at this time.
Morning, sir.
Excuse me, thank you. As a veteran, I appreciate the Court's recognition of veterans, and I join with you in applauding the service that veterans have given this country and continue to give this country. Unfortunately, we all know sometimes there's consequences for the veterans that are returning. Substance abuse, alcoholism, post-traumatic stress syndrome, mental illness. And many of those people come back and end up on the streets, end up in our jails and our court system. And that's the downside. But it's fortunate that this county, and I'm here to some degree to talk to you about a program, but also to let you guys know that this county is really very special in its participation in developing plans to try to, with the city and with stakeholders in this community, to try to deal with the very serious problems of homelessness. And part of that problem is the veteran homeless. And I am not announcing because it's already been announced, but I want to give you a report that we were fortunate enough to get a $600,000 grant from the VA to open a transitional residential program for homeless veterans who are having substance abuse problems or having post-traumatic stress syndrome issues or other mental health issues. We wouldn't have gotten that if it hadn't been for being able to demonstrate the collaboration and the support of local government. So I want to thank you, because it's going to mean an awful lot to our community. We hope we're going to be renovating a program. We already have some beds that we provide to the homeless population and other substance abuse on Pine Street. It's over across from the Presbyterian Night Shelter. I'm sure some of you have seen it before. We're going to take part of that that's now office space and create 30 beds. It'll focus on homeless veterans with substance abuse again and mental health issues, but it also is going to work with our criminal courts and our probate courts to look at folks who continually cycle, veterans who continually cycle through the system, who need and can be and have an interest in support, and we'll try to divert them out of the jail and the court system into that program. They have to be veterans, but I promise you, unfortunately, in the jails there's also a large number of veterans, many of them homeless and many of them on misdemeanor offenses. So this is a great program, and we probably will have it open sometime the first quarter of the new year. It's going to be called Liberty House. It'll do three basic things: help people recover, it'll help them find jobs, and it'll help reintegrate them into the community. So I wanted to thank you for this court support of efforts to try to plan for and deal with the problems of the homeless and the homeless veterans. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
No, but thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Your Honor, members of the court, we could go to item B. This is an update on the HIV Planning Council. Ms. Drake is here to address the court at this time. Ms. Drake.
Welcome. I believe we have, is it Don Cleburne? Clyburn, excuse me.
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to update the court this morning on the North Central Texas HIV Planning Council. I'm the chair of the North Central Texas HIV Planning Council. I'm from Abilene, Texas. The vice chair of the Planning Council, Dwayne Robertson from Wichita Falls, was not able to be here today. And as well, the chair-elect, who is Sylvia Rawlings from Arlington. She was out of town, and so she's not able to be here as well. I would like to especially thank Ms. Brewer and Santos Navarrete for their arranging this chance for us to talk to y'all this morning about our continued dealings with HIV and dealing with the epidemic in this area. I would also like to thank Margie Drake and her department's efforts for taking the issues that we bring up through the Planning Council and putting those recommendations into effect. And I would like to call on Jamie Shields at this time. He's the coordinator of the Planning Council, and he will give you a little more of an overview than I can. So, Jamie?
Thank you very much. Is there a PowerPoint for this?
I don't believe they sent us a PowerPoint. Do you
get a PowerPoint.
You didn't have one? Okay, well, you have in your hands a copy of the PowerPoint that was to be shown for this, and I can go over that briefly with you. But really just wanted to give you an overview of the Planning Council, how it operates, its activities, some of the programs that we have been working on, and some of the challenges we face. So I'll briefly go over that. But the Planning Council is a mandated function from the federal government. There's actually 56 planning councils throughout the United States. 5 of those are in Texas. The 5 main urban areas of Texas have a planning council. Planning councils have the responsibility of taking a look at the HIV and AIDS epidemic in a particular region and determining what is the most critical needs for services for that community, who are the people who are most needing those issues, are there any special circumstances that we need to look at for the populations that we deal with, and then from that coming up with what types of services we would like to provide or should provide to meet those needs. After we do that, we get the fun task of then deciding how much it's going to cost to do the work. From that, we create this needs assessment, and then we take a look at all these services, prioritize them towards how they will both most effectively reach those populations. We then come up with this budget. We hand this budget to the administrative agency, which is managed by Margie Drake. She applies for those funds from both the federal and state sources based on what the Planning Council sees it needs to have to fund them. Obviously, after the application goes in, we very rarely get 100% of what we ask for, but then once the money comes in, it goes back to the Planning Council then to allocate appropriately to where we can best suit those needs. So it's quite a large responsibility given to the Planning Council to make these decisions. But it's a very exciting one, and it's probably one of the best examples of community input into a process that helps really make a difference for that particular population. One of the reasons the federal government decided they wanted these 56 bodies making these decisions is so that the decision wouldn't come strictly out of either Washington, D.C. or Atlanta, but allow it to be regional and local and allow us to take a true assessment of our area. So that's the Planning Council's charge from the federal government. We've been doing it in the region here since the early 90s and have been continuing this process over time. The Planning Council itself is made up of volunteers. There are 37 volunteers in our area that make these decisions. These volunteers are very committed, very aware of the issues. The federal government says that we must have certain volunteers that participate in this process, and that's a very good thing because we want to make sure we have the voice and input of area experts or those involved in HIV in some manner or form, such as the housing authority, such as a homeless authority, such as those working with substance abuse and mental health issues. So they mandate, and you'll see a slide in there that tells you the various 15 mandated roles that we must find to serve on our Planning Council. We're very fortunate in this area that we have been able to pick some good people to represent those areas, and they're very committed. There's only one position right now that we have unfilled that's a mandated slot, and that is one that every area in Texas is unable to get filled, and that's the Medicaid position. But that's a state ruling that they can't participate in these. So it's one of those things that we don't have a person to actually represent it. However, we have many, many people who are very aware of Medicaid, who either receive Medicaid, work with Medicaid, so we have that position pretty well covered through that, through the expertise of many of the members. One of the other things that I'm sorry.
Let me ask you a question. How are members of the Planning Council selected and by whom?
Okay, we have an open process for people to apply to the Planning Council. We solicit applications throughout the year. We are continually receiving applications. We sometimes target individuals or groups of individuals that would be interested in being on the Planning Council. So they fill out an application, okay, and the application is then given to the Executive Committee of the Planning Council, which Don Clyburn chairs. The Executive Committee consists of the officers. He mentioned Dwayne Robertson, our Vice Chair, Sylvia Alonzo Rawlings, our Chair-elect, past Chair Francis and Pratt, and then also the chairs of each of the committees that do a lot of the work. They interview those members. The members are interviewed and discussed. We look into see how they fit into the picture, what we need, looking at all the issues we need to fill. And once they're selected, they're voted in, and then that recommendation is forwarded to Judge Whitley for him to welcome them to the Planning Council. But it's an open process. We're continually looking for individuals. We're continually, seeking those to be involved. And we do represent a 38-county area, so we also have to make sure we've got the representation from all our counties all the way out up into Wichita Falls, Abilene, down into Stephenville. So we really need to make sure we have the geographic as well as expertise, as well as representing, looking like the epidemic. We make it's one of our mandates is to make sure that we're reflective of the populations most infected. Another mandate is that we must have 33% of our Planning Council members HIV positive. And right now, there's a chart in there that shows you our breakout of how we look, and we're pleased that 40% of our members are HIV positive. So we exceed the mandates that are put out.
So that's the slide. This is the slide where you're referring to.
Right. That slide there is the one that tells a little bit about the demographic breakout as well as the HIV reflection. And we do meet our requirement also of having our rural representation involved, again, with the Wichita Falls, Abilene, Stephenville, and other areas there. But the Planning Council, again, goes through this process, and those members are, again, volunteers, very committed to the cause, very aware of the HIV issues, and they continually work through this process. We do assessments throughout the year. We're continually looking at new issues that are coming up, things that our community is seeing and feeling. We have a very, very large consumer group that's very active, very participatory with our process, and provides us very good input on issues. From those issues, we conduct needs assessments, and the assessments are very in-depth in looking at issues. We've recently conducted some assessments of those people who know they're HIV positive but are not in medical care. And what are those reasons? Are there some factors that they contribute? And what are some factors we can help assess? So we continually look at those and bring this back in order to make sure that we're evolving our services and on where those services are provided or how they're provided so that we can best meet the need and keep people in care. So we're continuing looking at that. We're also looking at new issues that come up. I mean, HIVs have been around for 25 years, and we've seen a lot of things change. People who've been HIV positive for 15 years or more, we're just now beginning to see how their bodies are reacting differently to the HIV medications or some of the infections. So we're having to look at new issues and continually examining what is needed to address them, both medically, support services, access into care services. So we are looking at those as we go through the time. And again, after we do that, we prioritize, look how the services are delivered, and then look at the monies needed to do it. Right now, we have about $3.7 million that we look at, or the Planning Council helps determine where these services are to be funded and how they're able to be presented. And then the cycle continues itself as we go through, because the next step is evaluate. How are we doing? Did the intents of what we wanted to do make a difference? Did people's health outcomes improve as a result of what these changes are, things that are happening? So we really look at that aspect and then continue the cycle, continue priorities, and looking at all the newer populations that are involved. So this is really a little bit of how we do it. Again, we create needs assessments, and our assessments are quite extensive. But what we talk about is, looking at things that we are looking at. We create a roadmap from these assessments. We call it a comprehensive plan that says how are we going to get to where we need to be to address the needs. So those are items that we produce throughout the year to help us make our decisions. Some of the challenges we're facing is that 2 years ago, the Ryan White Care Act that used to fund all of the services became the Ryan White Treatment Modernization Act. New legislation came into being that governs how the funds are to be used and how the funds are spent. Major changes happened with that. They went to a much more medical model than a social model. That was very, very interesting changes for us and to implement, but our services had all been set up around a social model. Now we were having to move much more into medical. The challenge for the Planning Council is that we still want to be very much, we must maintain and address what our clients still really need. We can't just jump immediately and say pills are going to be the whole thing that solves the world. There are access issues. There are health disparity issues. There are transportation issues. There are housing issues that we must look at because those are true needs of our clients. But we need to make sure we're molding them into, evolving them into some of these other mandates that came up from the federal government. So we're continually working to meet the needs, the true needs of our client base, yet meeting the mandates that have been given to us by the federal and state governments. We're doing a very good job with that. I'm really pleased the Planning Council has taken a very big leadership nationally in doing that. Mr. Butts.
I understand the various federal mandates and the shift from what you call the social service delivery methodology to a more medically based methodology. The problem I have with that is that the medical treatment model does not include prevention. And prevention, it seems to me, is where we get the most bang for our buck. If you just wait until people present with an abnormal viral load, then it's too late to do anything but give them pills. It seems to me that we, during the time when HIV and AIDS services were prevention-based, we made great headway in reducing the incidence of new infections. This new methodology does nothing to help us with that.
Our smiles back to yours. We're in total agreement with what you say, and we are actually fortunate that the legislation, even with this medical model, allows for much more prevention than I think some people realize, and we're being able to incorporate many, many different programs for HIV prevention. There's been some effective interventions that have been integrated into the medical model for prevention of HIV and STDs, and we've started incorporating those rather quickly into our system, and so that our medical care providers are really stressing and working with prevention. Also, there is an entire prevention planning group for the state that is working 100% with prevention. We in our region, North Central Texas, are very, very integrated into that we're pulling and we're working together with them so that our providers and our services are very, very focused on HIV prevention, prevention for HIV positives, because a lot of the prevention is more protection versus transmission. We're working on that. Prevention of going on to further infection. So we're really taking a serious look at that of integrating that into our models, and I've actually put some money behind getting that happen, because you're 100% correct. Prevent it, we don't have to worry about all the care and services, but we've got to put that in. The medical model, and it's not a true medical model they have set up, they want medical outcomes. So we have that flexibility, so we're incorporating that, Commissioner.
Let me encourage you to press the edge of the envelope on these types of services. As the AIDS demographic has shifted to a more minority and more woman demographic, it seems to me that additional education and prevention efforts need to be undertaken, because this is a demographic that was not previously targeted by your prevention efforts that were undertaken heretofore. So you've got a new demographic that is perhaps not as familiar with how to protect and prevent the transmissions of AIDS in this new demographic. And we need to be about being out there amongst them, educating them the same way we did previously with the other demographic. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
And I think you've got a great group of planning council members that adhere that point and enforce that very much. The 4 lead officers on the planning council either came in through prevention or actually serve on the state HIV prevention group. We've been integrated so much. So we 100% agree. The late to test, late to care is a very issue that we have, and if we can get that testing happening sooner, we don't have to worry as much about the care. So we're really focused, and yes, thank you so much.
Finally, I'd like to see us take a look at seeding some aid services organizations that are indigenous to minority communities. Currently, there aren't any. That is the greatest demographic in aid services.
We've identified the need for capacity building and in delivering capacity and quality services, especially in target communities. The Planning Council, unfortunately, does not have any authority involvement with actually awarding awards to agencies, but we do know and
set the priorities.
We set the priorities, and the priorities are set to reach populations in their locale, in their communities that need to be reached. So yes, we do set those priorities.
Thank you.
Sheila, thank you very much for your presentation today. Thank you all.
Finally, members of the court, a week ago to item C. This is a tax abatement request from Cinram Wireless. Ms. McMillan is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. The Commissioners Court is asked to review and consider a tax abatement request from Cinram Wireless for construction of a new manufacturing and distribution facility at Alliance Gateway in the city of Fort Worth. Cinram Wireless will occupy a 788,000 square foot state-of-the-art light manufacturing and distribution facility in Alliance Gateway. The facility is to be constructed and owned by Hillwood, doing business as Alliance Gateway Number 11 Limited, and will be leased to Cinram Wireless. The facility will handle all Motorola cell phone kitting and distribution for North America. Cinram considered several locations throughout the United States and Canada for this facility expansion, and locally within DFW area, they looked at the DFW airport and the Alliance site. Because the DFW airport has no property tax, the city of Fort Worth found it necessary to offer partial tax abatement in order to make the Alliance location preferable to the DFW airport location and to keep the facility on the tax rolls. As Cinram will be rolling in operations previously done at the Alliance Motorola location, it was also important to keep these jobs close to the current workforce and within the city of Fort Worth and Tarrant County. Hillwood projects construction spending of approximately $15.5 million on the facility and added real property value of approximately $10.5 million by Cinram. Employment at the site is projected at 1,225 full-time Cinram employees with salaries ranging from $22,000 to $52,000 a year for shipping, packing, distribution, and material handling type positions. Up to an additional 1,000 temporary employees may also be added as demand warrants. Cinram is consolidating distribution activities from other locations in the region, in addition to those performed at the Motorola Alliance facility. The city of Fort Worth has finalized an amended abatement package for Hillwood and Cinram and has approved abatement of up to 75% of real and personal property taxes for a 10-year period. Cinram and Hillwood have requested the county's participation in property tax abatement in order to make this project work at the Alliance location. Should commissioners choose to participate in tax abatement, staff is proposing a county and hospital district participation in tax abatement at a maximum of 50% of new real and personal property value for a period of 10 years. This would begin with a base abatement of 30% and provide up to 20% bonus abatement for additional performance-based criteria. To receive the 30% base abatement, Hillwood and Cinram would be required to meet minimum investment values of $15.5 million for construction costs and minimum of $10.5 million in added new taxable personal property value to the site, and also to employ 1,225 positions full-time at the location. Then additional 10% abatement can be added incrementally for additional employment levels and also additional Tarrant County resident levels. And an additional 10% can also be earned for DBE construction and supply service contracting above the minimum requirements. A detailed listing of the abatement structure is also included in your packet. Based on the current tax rates, should Hillwood and Cinram earn the maximum tax abatement of 50% for all 10 years of the abatement, the total combined 10-year tax abatement for the county and hospital district would be about approximately $640,000 through the 10-year period. That would be approximately $343,000 for the county and $296,000 for the hospital district. However, over that same time period, the county and hospital district would also receive tax revenues from the unabated portion of the improvements and the base value of the land, estimated approximately $745,000 combined over the 10-year period. Currently, the real property value for this site has been receiving agricultural exemption and only paying just over $5,000 a year in taxes. Tony Cream, representing Hillwood, is here today, and also Deborah Roberts, representing Cinram. And I'm going to ask Tony to come forward and also ask you if you have any questions.
Any questions, court members?
I'll turn it over to Tony.
Welcome.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for considering this abatement. This has been a big project for Hillwood and for Cinram. Motorola has been a customer at Alliance for a number of years, and they've recently gone to market to outsource the operation they have at Alliance. And Cinram has won that business, and as Lisa mentioned, they did a nationwide, and including Canada, search for this new facility, and we were lucky enough to have them narrow it down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But unfortunately, Alliance was at a bit of a competitive disadvantage because of the tax structure at DFW Airport. So the City of Fort Worth has agreed to offer the abatement, and we are requesting one summer from the county to level that playing field and keep this business and all these jobs at Alliance.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be working on the abatement agreements and bringing these back to you, hopefully by the end of this year. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve.
No, I think we need to wait till we get the agreement finalized by the attorneys and stuff. So.
Okay, that's correct.
Your Honor, that's all we have this morning.
Okay, before we recess right now, I would like to close the meeting today in honor of our veterans and what they've done for us. The Commissioners Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss the items exempted under Sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 0. Having returned from closed session and there being no business, we are adjourned. That's after we were in order. Good meeting.